Hi, I'm Stephanie McKeith, holistic cancer coach and cannabis educator slash consultant. I am also the host of the Theta Living Show. I talked with Lisa Hill, and her story is very interesting. She started in healthcare as a nurse in the conventional setting, and after a few decades, she realized that it just wasn't in alignment with the way she believed health to be addressed. Ever since then, she's been committed to providing a platform for information to be uncensored, unsponsored, healthy living information, as well as the developer of healthy products that have a concentration on healthy sleep, all designed by nature for ultimate health. During this pandemic that we're all experiencing on a global scale, the world has been looking for alternatives when it comes to surgical masks. Maybe not an alternative, but an option for not breathing that dirty air, the stinky air, the death breath back and forth, back into your respiratory system. So Lisa and her team are actually they have developed a mask that infuses a layer of silver in them. And she is offering a discount on these masks infused with silver as her gift to you for watching this. Okay, Lisa Hill, thank you.
I'm excited. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. So we were not going to discuss the COVID crisis right now, but it's very applicable at this point because people are scared. It seems that we're probably at the tail end of our quarantine or lockdown or whatever people are calling it. Agree, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So with that said, now that everybody has bought up all of their masks and their gloves and there's probably nothing much available, what are we going to do when we go back to the workforce, to life, to the community, to being around other people? How is that going to affect our interactions at this point?
That's a really good question. Uh, I remember back just a couple years ago when they started the safe spaces at all the colleges, right? I think we're going to see somewhat of the same things. Maybe we're not going to call them safe spaces, but I think we're going to start seeing more of the same things where people are going to need places to go where they can feel safe and they can feel like, I'm in a place where people feel the same way I do. I'm going to be supported. Maybe they're still going to practice social isolation or even social distancing, shall I say. But the desire, because we're human beings, for us to yearn to be together, that's going to be tough to stop. I don't know if, when I'll go back to also some of the early, my early years when I started learning about the Holocaust, and
Mm-hmm.
I started learning about what really happened in the camps and how they supported each other. And it sounds really, really crazy. We're near not at that point, but I think right now where we are, if we don't reach out and continue to support each other, even if it's on programs such as yours, we need that. We desire that connection with another living, breathing human being, and that's what's going to keep the spirit going. Because the spirit is not something that, I mean, you deal with that every day in your practice, but the ordinary person walking down the street, this isolation is going to kill them if we don't develop those safe places that we can
Mm-hmm.
go to communicate, and we can go to, and churches, of course, used to be and still will be, I believe, in the future. This place where people are going to feel safe to go to, but we're going to have to fight against our own fear, don't you think?
I
Our
do.
own, oh my gosh, can I hug? Can I touch you? And I'm such a hugger. It's going to be tough.
For a lot of people. So you mentioned a program. So this show that I offer is on a level of its own. I have a very specific audience that's looking for specific information because there's so much out there. Do you watch the news? Do you follow this person or that person? Or how do you sort through all of this information? One minute there's a video on YouTube, the next minute it's gone. So you are working on a particular platform that would be of probably a huge interest to a lot of the people that are watching this right now.
Yes, and this actually the concept started about all building an alternative television network that could not be taken down, censored, banned, and controlled, because we can't deny the fact that people perish for the lack of knowledge, right? Whether it's a lack of knowledge in the health arena, or whether it's a lack of knowledge in the spiritual arena, whether it's a lack of knowledge just in what's going on in our country and the world with truth news. And so the concept started about 8 years ago. And fast forward to where it is today. Now we have the technology, so we're taking everything off the grid. So, and we're leaving this space open for places like yourself and the Truth About Cancer and other organizations, the Children's Health Alliance, that they can come on board and they can give you and the audience, speaking to the audience, they can give you real-time data and information that is not owned and operated by big pharma, not owned and operated by big government, and not owned and operated by big organizations that can control the narrative. People, and I think we feel the same exact way. I think that people right now have great big baloney detectors, right? And so they can detect when something isn't right, but they don't know how to articulate it. Because if you just listen to mainstream media day after day after day, it's called indoctrination.
Yeah.
And pretty soon you start to believe it, and you start to deny your own innate ability to, cut through all this data that you're receiving. So Brio is a platform that is going to be teaching people and educating people and entertaining people in the health arena, taking the freedom, allowing you the freedoms of health, freedoms of faith and religion, the freedoms of truth news, and also to help with just the basic environment that you're living in. And so that people are not getting the wrong programming. There was a really good, did you watch Out of the Shadows?
I did last night, actually.
Right?
I did.
So I would suggest to everybody, they're dear friends of ours, Mike, the producer, as well as Liz, they're the people that are very focused on bringing the truth to the forefront. And I think there were some parts of that documentary that was so like, you know it, but you forget it. And now you know it again because you watch it, where it was talking about how for years in the entertainment industry, they have indoctrinated us, and it's mind control and it's programming. Even though we want to deny it, that's really what's happening. So for us to make good cognitive choices based on our own personal needs, we need good information that's true, information that's honest, and then we can, go ahead and make decisions based on that. But throughout the years, look at medicine, for instance. So many times, I was in medicine for 22 years before I went into the alternative world. And then I discovered that you can have the best, program or product or tool, but if nobody knows about it, it's like having the best coffee shop in the desert. So I went into media marketing, but it was a media marketing with a twist of truth, meaning that everything I put out there has to have an element of truth to it, whether we like it or not. And so that's where this was all birthed from. And I think the more people that we have that become aware of that there is an opportunity to speak truth, hear truth, and not to give up. And that's what I think is so amazing about your program that you're doing right now. Because right now people, if you're financially caving in, your health is caving in, your support network isn't there to support you, the depression and the isolation that people are feeling, and then people just want to give up, right? Because it's a fight. You're in a fight every day to stay healthy. You're in a fight every day to have your brain healthy. And there was a really, when I started to really look at how can we put together a media platform to support all these freedoms of health, freedom of religion, freedom of truth and news. There was a study that was done, and part of me, like you, is analytical, meaning, you're based on some studies, and then the other, of course, is based on truth. But what the study showed is that they took a group of people And they had 100 people in the audience, and they had 2 people on stage, and they drew their blood and they tested their T cells before the experiment. And then they had everybody watch a random act of kindness. And then afterward, they tested their T cells again. And they were expecting the person receiving the random act of kindness, their T cells were increased. When in actuality, the people observing the random act of kindness and giving their T cells were higher. So what that means is when they're watching your show and they're getting inspired and they're seeing, this giving and exchange of information, you're making them healthier. So we might think we're not doing enough, but even by connecting with people and, having these kind of programs, it's extremely important for our health and our immune systems.
Well, I think the connection part is the key. So when you hear all of these stories on the mainstream news, and it's just that constant fear, it's the woodpecker of fear in your brain, it kind of defaults you to that pre-programmed notion that the Out of the Shadows documentary was going into detail about how you've been indoctrinated by all of this information. The thoughts you have now are not yours. The beliefs that you think you believe are not because you made a decision to believe it in that way. But the problem is, who do you connect with when you do see the light? Who is your network of reliable sources that you can talk to and communicate with and live with like-minded people? So your platform, I think, also offers the opportunity, which the same thing here with the Theta Living Show, is it gives you the opportunity to connect with these like-minded sources and the people who can support your emotional well-being. Because if that goes to the wayside or that falls ill, like with the social distancing and people being afraid to be reintroduced into the community, we're going to have people running to the doctors for prescription antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, and then we're going to experience an opioid crisis, but with antidepressant medications.
Or
So it's just
self-medicating.
Self-medication. Yeah. So
I mean, I think it's hilarious. I was just saying this the other day. The only places that were still open, or not only, but I find it interesting that the 2 places that were open were alcohol, liquor stores and abortion clinics.
So the liquor stores, I can't remember what governor mentioned it, but one of the governors specifically stated that if they were to close that down, the emergency rooms of the hospital would be flooded with withdrawal patients who could not have access to their alcohol or their cigarettes.
Oh, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can imagine. But can you imagine? And they said that alcohol sales, I have to look at the last study, alcohol sales during this quarantine period has gone up by 57%.
I saw that. Last time I looked, it was 42, but it's going to continuously climb until even well beyond once we're released, it's going to continuously go up.
Yeah. Because people, financially, what is the biggest stress people have? The 5 top stressors, right? Mm-hmm. 2 of them are financial, and then of course health. And those are the 2 big areas where people are going to be the most challenged. And then I recently spoke to a physician friend of mine, and she said what she was concerned about is the people that aren't taking care of themselves on a daily basis and dependent upon some of the medical testing, and they're not able to have them done right now, whether it be, upper GIs, whether it be colonoscopies or, whatever, but they're not able to take care of their basic medical needs. So she said she's concerned that it's going to escalate because they're not able to care for them in the early stages of possibly something going wrong in this interim.
Yeah. You said you were in the medical field for 22 years.
Yep.
What did you do? What was your position?
Trauma. I worked in trauma and I worked in ICU.
What did you do?
As an emergency room nurse.
Really?
Yep.
So so now you're on this side though.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what
I will tell you, there was a couple things that happened. You know, I was raised in a very holistic home. My mother was always canning, and we grew up. I mean, we went to a restaurant maybe once a year
yeah.
because she just felt that you needed great nutrition. She was a great role model. She still is. She's 80 years old and as healthy as ever, not on one medication. So we grew up like that. So when I went into nursing, I thought truly, because I loved people and I thought I'm going to go to serve and so on. Once I got caught up in it, I realized that we were completely dependent upon the medical model. And then we slowly went from being able to be at the bedside of patients that were hurting to a lot of paperwork. And of course, everything started to rapidly change in the last probably 5 years. So, but in that interim, I studied. I was always studying business. I was continuing on with my doctor in naturopath and studying all these other ways that we could complement, because I don't really think any physician goes into their role wanting to do harm. They go into the role wanting to do good because they have a heart for people and they want to help. It's just that the medical model in some places are flawed because it doesn't include helping a patient to maintain their health. You know, we do a really good job of taking care of people. I say it's like, you know, you go off and you fall into a ditch. We do a good job of pulling you out with a crane or a, you know, tow truck. But what about in between the times you don't fall into that pit, right? So we need to keep people healthy. And the one case I will say that was the defining point for me was when we had a young man that came in. He was in his late 40s. He retired early from General Motors and bought a beautiful place on Lake Superior. And he said, I am going to retire and enjoy my life. And he came in and his cholesterol was like 204. And otherwise he was in perfect health. He was a runner. The doctor said, well, because of your history, you fit into this category. We're going to put you on a medication called Lipitor. And then, you know, that should help to edge off some of the, you know, your family history of heart disease and so on. And within 2 weeks, he was back in the emergency room with difficulty walking. And within 4 weeks, he ended up having a massive cardiac event. And they contribute that to the side effects of Lipitor.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that struck me because at the same time, we were not teaching the patients to, you know, take good care of themselves, whether it was omega oils, whether it was walking, whether it was CoQ10, you know, all this stuff that we should be doing on a day-to-day basis anyway. And I thought, you know what, this just isn't for me any longer because of the pressure that was happening. So I went to the other side and I've worked in that in product development and helping companies that have good products get off the ground, as well as in product development of products for my own companies. But really at the end of the day, it's to help people, encourage people to make choices based on what their own needs are. But you know what else, Stephanie, that I think is so interesting? I'm finding it myself. Because I'm a doer and I'm always going 100 miles an hour. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not even practicing what I teach. I'm not even saying, you know, yeah, like take 20 minutes a day, meditate, be quiet, listen to your body. And I will say during this quarantine time for me, it has been like a huge aha. Like, Lisa, you know, but what I find is that we don't pay attention to our own bodies, even though, and we think we're drinking our greens, we're detoxing, we're doing all the things we need to do. Maybe we're doing a massage, we're doing our, you know, getting Reiki, all that, which is good. I can't imagine where I'd be without all that. But now we're stuck and we're like faced with what is our own current situation that we have access to, because we don't have access to everything we had before. So I really think it's a good time to do self-examination. It's a good time to do self-evaluation and choose not to be too hard on yourself, because we don't have all the answers all the time. But your mind is just like your body. If we don't continue to put good things in, of course, I tell everybody it's just like you're a jelly donut, right? You squeeze it hard enough, what's really inside is going to come out.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to put good things and be around good people like yourself and the connections that we both have. So this is really critical.
It is. So we don't have all the answers, right? So you noticed that the conventional model, obviously we don't have the answers on either side, not all of the answers, but
Right.
when we only take one approach, it's going to lead us to a specific destination, right? So if
Right.
you're only going a conventional model, that's more of a Band-Aid. If that patient ended up back with a major cardiac issue, he wasn't being supported as a whole person. So
That's right.
that the
Right.
whole system there is flawed in and of itself. But if you take a naturopathic only approach too, and you might need the intervention or the care of emergency room medicine at certain points in time, we have to be open and willing to hear both sides of the story, right?
We really do. We do. We have to. And again, it's like there's been many situations. Like, let's say if you have a appendectomy or appendix that is ready to rupture, if you just take a bunch of vitamin C or enzymes, that's not going to help that situation, right? You have to go in and have it surgically removed to be able to take the poisons, and then you build your body before and after. Now, people can look at it both ways. There are people that are really extreme on both sides of the fence, but I think, you know what? Even the good book talks about everything, all things in moderation. I mean, we have to respect and in both of those places. The other thing that I think is really exciting, if we're going to talk about the medical model, you know, when I first went into nursing, we never prayed at the bedside of a patient. We were not, we were encouraged to, you know, everything was very structured. By the time I left, we had chiropractors coming in. We did have, you know, alternative medicine and healing factors that were coming in. We did pay a different, you know, a little bit difference to the patient's diet. Might not be organic the way that we eat, but we were starting to pay attention to the alternative and bringing it in as much as we could. The other thing that I think was, when I look back, we were not encouraged to stay at the bedside of a patient that was dying. And I think about that now. By the time that I left, it became my own personal mission that nobody die without somebody by their bedside, because
Yeah.
in trauma and emergency room and ICU, a lot of times the families aren't always present. And we know that is very, very important, because we don't know what they can hear, what they can't hear. And to be loving and kind at the bedside of somebody passing is really important. So that became kind of a personal internal mission for me to be able to do that. But I think now, I really feel after this experiment, I call it an experiment that we're all part of right now. Not that it's some conspiracy, but I'm just saying, I think that we're all going through our own experiences. I think once we leave this space, we're going to have a deeper appreciation of having a cup of coffee with our friend. We're going to have a deeper appreciation from gathering, you know, for worship. We're going to have a different appreciation for just being able to be in the presence of other people. So I think sometimes what might have been meant for evil, if you believe in the enemy, I think that our Father always turns it over for good. So I think we are incredible human beings that are built with this incredible wisdom that we're so resilient. I mean, we were talking before about the Holocaust and what happened in the camps, and how people were drawn together and supported each other in the most dire, horrible circumstances. But what kept them going? And I think we're going to have a lot of wonderful stories that are going to come out of this situation.
We will. So to be able to plug back into our community when we are released back into the wild, for people who want to wear the masks, for people who want to incorporate the conventional or the traditional side to the natural side, what are the options? What are the options?
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because we were talking earlier about how sometimes when we're in a situation, it forces us to be creative. And so when I left, I was sharing, when I left from America to go to Israel to meet with their media team and speak with some individuals there. When I got off the plane 19 hours later, people were being taken into quarantine. I was like, what is going on right now? It was just in the beginning of all this. And then my departure was moved up a couple days, and I left and I got on the plane. I flew LL and I got on the plane. Everybody had masks on except for me. I'm thinking, what just happened? Because when you're in Israel, I have an itchy nose. When you're in Israel, it was very busy during the time that we were there, but we are in different parts of the Galilee and different parts. But so we weren't sitting in front of a television the whole time, looking at what was happening hour by hour, and things are changing hourly at that time. So I was sitting on the plane and I was thinking, okay, everybody has masks on. Some people had scarves on, and I did take my scarf and spray thieves on it and put it around my mouth. And I thought, well, okay, we have to do something about this, because I've been a real big fan of silver for over 20 years. My first company that I started, we had an angstrom size silver that we used. And I thought, let's see if we can take a mask made out of fiber, a cloth mask, and infuse it with silver. So that's truly what we did. So we have right now Silverite masks, and you can go to silveritemasks.com. And then Stephanie is giving you 20% off. So you can use her code. And because we want people, there's a couple different things. Even if you don't believe you need it, there's going to be mandates that are going to be coming down in the next couple weeks that are going to say, okay, it is suggested or even possibly commanded when you go back to work or you go out in the wild, like you say, that you wear a mask. And after talking to another doctor friend of mine putting together our mask, it was the cloth mask may do, we don't make any claims, of course, but may do a couple different things. I'm not talking about our Silverite mask, but I'm talking about the other masks, cloth masks. Think about this. You have a cloth mask around your face. You're breathing into it. What happens? It gets moist.
Mhm.
What happens if you're in an environment where you have warm, moist, cloth? It attracts viruses, bacteria, and fungi.
And breathes.
Right?
Mhm.
It's kind of like a baby on a diaper on a baby. So you have this moist cloth over your face. If it's not an N95, which of course the N95 is going for the healthcare workers, but there's a huge unaddressed population and they can't get a hold of masks. So we want to make these masks available for everybody all the time. And the masks are all masks are not, it's not fun to wear a mask.
Sure.
But it is breathable. And the other thing that I found that I thought was really interesting was wearing a mask all those years when I was working in trauma and ICU and even possibly surgery. When you take off the mask, we would call it death breath, because it would smell so bad because you're breathing in your own breath, because you naturally have bacteria, and you take it off and it would just stink. Well, after you wear the Silverite mask, you take it off and it doesn't smell. Because silver, of course, we always say we don't treat, cure, or diagnose, especially when it comes to the coronavirus. But we're just giving you additional tools that I believe would help to create a cleaner environment. So when you take it off, you don't have that, because silver on its own is a natural antibacterial and antifungal and antiviral. So I feel that we have a really good solution for a problem that a lot of people yet don't even know they have.
So for somebody who is not familiar with silver and they are kind of stuck in the conventional approach, but they want to start learning about how to support their immune system and potentially how to prevent anything like this from affecting them moving forward, or for somebody who has cancer already and they're already dealing with a suppressed immune system, what is silver? And why would wearing a silver mask be in their best interest over just a regular old surgical mask?
Well, silver has been around for centuries, actually. And in the early days, they used to put silver coins in the canteens of the soldiers so it wouldn't spoil. So silver has that aspect to it. And I encourage everyone, if you go to silveritemasks.com, there's a video of our infusion partner, our chemist, that is talking about silver and how important silver is. But I know myself, working in the medical industry, we have Band-Aids infused with silver.
Mm-hmm.
Silvadene, think about it, when you get a bad burn, you put Silvadene on. So silver by nature is a very important element that acts as a natural antibiotic, antifungal, and antiviral. It's also very healing to the body. And of course, I'll say it again, we don't treat, cure, or diagnose, nor say that our product in any way, shape, or form prevents or diseases or disease processes. But do your own homework on silver. But silver truly, I know throughout all the years that I was raising my children, if they got a stuffy nose, sore throat, We never took it on a daily basis, but they would gargle and swallow with it.
Mhm.
Sometimes you put it in your ears, or
Mhm.
especially in your home. Like a lot of people are using the humidifiers or the diffusers right now. Put a little bit of silver in there so the water doesn't get bad. There's so many applications to silver. But when I went on a hunt for the right type of fabric in silver to infuse in fabric, it was really difficult. It was difficult to find the right people that would partner with me that really knew what they were doing.
Mhm.
Um, so here in America, we have the best, partners that we could ever wish for when it comes to infusing fabric with silver. So one mask will last you a month. You can wash it; it's reusable. So those of us that just go to the store or go out, we encourage everyone to buy two. So you have wash one, keep one.
Mhm.
But at the same time, these should last you a very, very long time. We say 20 to 30 washings per mask to preserve the silver. But they could last a long time if you're not washing them every day. But also, it covers a lot of your facial real estate, up underneath your chin, all the way back, and up over your nose. And it's beveled, so you can make it smaller, you can make it bigger if you're a smaller person or a bigger person. So we try to address all the different um, comfort levels. Again, it's never comfortable. It's like trying to put a comfortable cast on somebody's foot. But yeah.
So is there a time limit, like an 8 to 10 hour window to wear something like that? So if somebody's going to work to re-enter into the workforce, if they're being required to wear a mask and they're working an 8, 10, 16 hour shift, will these silver masks withstand that time frame?
Oh yes, they're very durable. They're 3 layered, so that they have 2 layers on the outside and one microscopic film in the middle that is infused with the silver. So again, it's very comfortable, very easy to breathe. A lot of these masks are tough. Your face gets completely drenched when there's not a good air exchange. So these ones are very comfortable for 8 to 10 to 16 hours um, to use that way. And again, for me, you put in your pocket, put in your purse, put one in your glove box. So no matter where you go, you have it. If you have to get
Mhm.
out there and be in front of in contact with people.
Mhm. So even for somebody who has a cancer diagnosis, even beyond all this COVID-19 crisis that we're going through, if you're going
Right.
to get your chemotherapy infusions, if you're going to the hospital for your checkup for some type of appointment, a specialty appointment, and you're walking into a major hospital, which we're surrounded by them here, they're
Yeah.
everywhere, cancer
Yeah.
clinics everywhere. You're walking into not just an isolated room with cancer patients. You're walking into a center with a lot of sick people and a lot of different viruses and bacteria and illness floating around. So moving forward, this would be appropriate for somebody who is working to protect their immune system.
Oh, if I were that person, absolutely. Because again, their immune system is tanking. They're being faced with a lot of elements that they hadn't anticipated before, whether it be medication, treatment, chemotherapy, radiation. That's going to help to decrease the body's own immune systems, right? So I think this is the perfect mask for them to take. And again, they own that mask. So they can take it home and wash it. But with the silver, remember, if you do your homework on silver, silver will act as a conduit.
Mhm.
So it is nature's antibiotic and antiviral and antifungal.
Okay. And it's not affecting anything as far as ingesting silver? So it's
No.
not going to affect blood levels or anything like, people won't have to worry. A lot of questions that I get about silver are, am I going to turn blue? So they don't have to
Yeah.
worry about a blue rectangle on their face.
No.
Okay.
No. If we just want to think about it like a filter on your furnace,
Uh-huh.
you breathe. It's coming through that filter into your your mouth and your lungs and your nose. So it's going through that filter. It's capturing and holding it, and then when you're breathing out, it's doing the same thing. But none of the particles break loose, and it's all infused directly into the fiber. the cotton fiber.
So good for staff too? Nurses,
Yes. Oh my gosh.
doctors, right?
Absolutely. We have
Caregivers.
Yes, so many calls right now from those people. So this is a couple different things are happening. There is a bottleneck, believe it or not, and you'll see that our nurses are trying to make their own masks, right?
Yeah.
And you'll see that they're saying, you know what, I can't get, we just don't have them at the hospital, even though, our government is releasing them as fast as they possibly can. Orders are coming through as fast as they can, but there's certain pockets of people that they're just not keeping up with the need. So they're having to either make their own or they're finding other ways. So they're looking for other alternatives. A lot of nurses know about silver and doctors because we work with it, right? Band-Aids, Silvadene, a lot of, creams and different things that even the catheters now have silver in them.
Really?
Yes. Yes. So there's a lot of silver being used in the medical community. So they know and recognize it. So I would anticipate, and we've already had a great influx of people that are working every day with patients that are saying, this is exactly what I need. The other thing is financially, it's really been a benefit because now you're not, buying a mask every 3 or 4 masks a day or 1 mask every day. This will last you a month.
Yeah.
So that in itself has been really, really helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah. So ideal for anybody then. So whether you want to wear the mask, you believe in wearing the mask, if you're forced to wear the mask, this is the solution to somebody who, even for somebody like myself, I don't wear a mask. I don't, when I go out into the public, I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not putting one on my kids. But if I was forced into a situation, and more than likely for me to reopen, we're going to have to, they've already noted that we're going to be opening in phases. And one of those phases is going to include wearing a mask, whether you're in an area that's optional or mandated. Masks are going to be part of the reopening into the economy. So this is the ideal solution for somebody who's looking to improve their health status and abide by government mandates.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And I'm like you, I'm not a huge fan of masks either. And so, but I put it in my, it'll come in a little plastic pouch. I keep it in there, keep it in my pocket, keep it in my purse, keep it in my glove box, just in case I forget. Because again, what's going to happen is we might not like wearing a mask, but people are going to stay away from us if we're not.
Yep.
And so I say, well, I might as well wear this mask, which I know the silver is in it. And then there's another thing that's real exciting to me is, and I encourage everyone to do their own homework, but we also are concerned about electrical magnetic fields, right? The EMFs. And I tell everybody, do your homework, because if you look at what blocks EMFs, did you know that silver is one of the elements that blocks EMFs?
Mm-hmm.
So I say, isn't that cool if you can be out wearing a face mask that you might not even like, but you're thinking, well, it's double, maybe even threefolded, right? Helps people not be afraid that I'm in their presence. And then it may or may not have the effect of blocking EMFs. And then third of all, it will allow me to go back into society.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those things are, and then of course it's financially a really good deal.
Mm-hmm. So 2 things before we sign off here. We like to keep it brisk, bright, and bold. So 2 things are, we want to make sure people can connect into Brio TV. How do they do that?
Just go to briotv.com.
Okay.
And you click on the different programming. Now remember, this is building really rapidly, and you're going to start seeing programs being added every day.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to see what we call truth news. You're going to start seeing programs on health, and just support the movement, because Brio TV is really a movement, just like what you're doing and I'm doing separately. But it's to support that movement so we can be even bigger than the other media platforms out there that aren't giving us the truth.
So are there specific channels, health news channels, science channels, or is it just a health news platform?
No. There's entertainment.
Okay.
We're also right now developing a homeschooling channel that will be helpful for homeschoolers, small over the country particularly.
Quinn's dancing back there.
Yeah, Exactly. But that will help, because right now the isolation of homeschooling, like I take my sister, for instance, she's never homeschooled. She's a single mom with a 5-year-old little, very, very active little boy. So the isolation that homeschooling parents are feeling, that's real. And right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a channel that we're in development. You're going to see other, shows that are coming every single day. We're adding new shows and different channels and so on. But our original, we have a $9.99 a month, which is it helps us, stay on the air, helps us develop new programming. But there's no, like, if a show wants to come on, if anybody's watching and says, you know what, I have a really good platform, give us a call, contact us. I believe you're going to start seeing more of Stephanie's shows. I'd love to have her on Brio TV, because again, that's a platform that nobody's going to be able to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be able to censor it. I'm not going to be able to tell Stephanie what to say and what not to say. So that in itself is exciting.
And for the masks, for everybody who wants to get back to life but has to wear a mask, how can they order? And you're giving away a special gift, right? A discount?
Yes. There's Stephanie's giving you a discount. So it's Silverite, SILVERITE mask, MASK.com. So silverritemask.com, and then you put in Stephanie's code, and a code is Theta Living, and then you will get 20% off. Awesome. So that's exciting to me, because we want to mobilize these. We want to get people out there wearing them, experiencing them, and not living in fear of being out and about. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for coming over to this side from the conventional side. It's a good blend to be able to take both sides, because you can speak to anybody. So I didn't know that. I didn't know you were in the medical field for 22 years. So that is a good opportunity to speak to anybody right now at this point in time, because there's so much conflicting information. So this can kind of tie it all in together. I appreciate you.
And thank you so much, and I appreciate you, because I also know what it's like to have a family member who is so important to me, have that diagnosis of cancer. My father passed away with brain cancer, so I know the journey, and I appreciate where everybody is. And a old physician told me one time, remember that we just have to accept people where they are, because we don't know where their path has been or where their path is taking them. So their understanding might be right here, and we have to learn just to appreciate where they are, and if we give value to their path. So that's what I'm all about.
Well, I appreciate it, Lisa. Thank you.
You too. Look forward to more.
Thanks for watching the Theta Living Show. Please like and subscribe to our channel to learn more about cancer and cannabis, 2 things you need to know about.